All right, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely reframe what you thought you knew about the Mongol Empire. I mean, when most of us picture the Mongols, we imagine this chaotic, bloodthirsty horde just sweeping across the Eurasian steppe, leaving absolutely nothing but destruction in their wake, right? Well, today, we're going to look at the actual historical sources and uncover a surprisingly different reality. As you'll see, the Mongol Empire was actually one of the most rigorously structured, legally codified, and, believe it or not, philosophically curious superpowers of its time. Let's kick things off with this famous assessment by the 16th century playwright Christopher Marlowe. Just look at this quote. It perfectly highlights the deep-seated Western myth of the Mongols as this lawless horde of barbarians. Marlowe describes them as ignorant of lawful arms and martial discipline, basically claiming that pillage and murder were just their everyday, usual trades. And hey, history is often written by the terrified victims of the winning side, so it makes sense. But as we're going to see, the Mongols were anything but ignorant of martial discipline. Section 1. The Mongol Military Machine. So to dismantle this whole myth of a chaotic horde, we really have to look at the decimal system that Genghis Khan instituted between 1206 and 1227. He didn't just point a mob in a direction and yell charge. No, he organized every single soldier into a strict mathematical hierarchy of tens. It started down at the base with an arban of 10 men. 10 arbans made a jeghun of 100 guys. 10 jeghuns, that made a regiment of 1,000. And 10 regiments formed this massive unit called a Tumen, 10,000 men. The Khan sat at the very top, communicating directly with his top commanders, who then flawlessly filtered those orders all the way down this numerical chain. And this right here brilliantly illustrates why they were just so devastatingly effective. It wasn't chaos. It was a highly modular system built specifically for rapid deployment. This kind of mathematical structure allowed for incredibly efficient information spread and lightning-fast communication across the vast Eurasian steppe. Think of it like the 13th century equivalent of a modern, highly modular rapid deployment force. It allowed them to set up structured stations to regroup and easily resupply horses and men after traveling literally hundreds of miles. It was a machine of supreme logistical order. Section 2. Law of the Steppe. Far from being some lawless wasteland, the empire was actually governed by a strict, codified legal act called the Yassa. It regulated literally everything, from combat all the way to public law. But crucially, it secured intergenerational wealth by ensuring that a Mongol's property went directly to their heirs, rather than just being seized by the Khan. So this gave rival nomadic clans a massive financial incentive, a reason that hit their wallets to stay bound together and enforce absolute obedience to Genghis Khan. But the really crucial point here is found in Rule 8 of the Yasa. Pillaging the enemy before the commanding general gives permission, that was punishable by death. Think back to that Christopher Marlowe quote about pillage and murder being their usual unruly trade. In reality, unauthorized pillaging wasn't standard practice at all. It was literally a capital offense. They demanded intense martial discipline, and all spoils of war were carefully gathered and distributed according to strict legal formulas. Section 3. The Great Principle. Now, this strict obedience to the law was deeply rooted in a cultural reverence for keeping your word, which they knew as the Great Principle, or Yige. Genghis Khan famously declared, "If you change at noon what you said in the morning, such a man's word won't be believed. I've already given you my word, let it stay that way." This wasn't just some catchy personal motto. This captured their entire approach to foreign policy. Promises of amnesty for submission were kept strictly, for sure, but so were promises of absolute destruction for defiance. We can see this binary approach super clearly in how they dealt with other nations. The Mongols considered themselves a world empire in the making, which meant that, technically, everyone was already subject to their law. You basically had two choices: submit to the empire, your word was honored, you were spared, integrated, and even granted religious freedom. But if you resisted, well, you breached the Great Principle. You became what they called a mobalia, or a bad city, and consequently, you were subjected to calculated, brutal warfare designed entirely to maximize fear, minimize Mongol casualties, and extract maximum wealth. And this strict, albeit incredibly grim, adherence to the law extended right into their actual conduct in warfare. After defeating the Tatars, Genghis Khan ordered his men to kill every Tatar man taller than the linchpin on the wheel of a cart. Those shorter than the linchpin, which usually meant children, were legally spared and then integrated or enslaved. It's a horrific metric, absolutely, but it really highlights a civilization operating on strict, codified rules, not just blind, unreasoning rage. Furthermore, this legal structure actually mandated an unexpected level of religious tolerance across the whole empire. The Mongols themselves practiced a shamanistic faith focused on the sky god Tengri, but they tolerated Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and Confucianism. They even issued tax exemptions called Tarkan Jarlips for religious clerics and actively protected Christian buildings during their campaigns in Syria. However, they strictly enforced their own cultural taboos, like a major prohibition against shedding royal blood upon the earth. When they executed rival royals, they'd often do so bloodlessly. How? Well, for instance, by slowly suffocating them under a heavy wooden platform while the Mongol generals literally feasted on top of it. Gruesome? Absolutely. But again, calculated adherence to the law.
Section 4. The Taoist and the Khan.
To truly grasp the nuanced character of this empire, you have to look at this incredible journey. Back in 1219, Genghis Khan sent an invitation and a golden tiger tablet all the way to China just to summon a renowned Taoist master named Qiu Chuji. What's amazing to me is that Qiu Chuji was over 70 years old at the time. Yet he packed up, left his home in Shandong in 1220, braved sandstorms and severe cold, crossed the vast Altai Mountains in 1221, and finally arrived at the Khan's camp near the Hindu Kush in modern-day Afghanistan in 1222. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth did the most powerful warlord on the planet summon a 70-year-old monk all the way across a continent? Well, he didn't summon him to discuss new weapons or war strategies. Calling him immortal, Genghis Khan asked him the ultimate human question: is there an elixir for obtaining immortality? He was literally looking for a way to cheat death. Qiu Chuji's response is honestly legendary. Picture this: he's standing before a conqueror who is famous for executing anyone who disappointed him. Yet, Qiu Chuji basically gave the Khan a bold, famously frank reality check. He said, there are only ways of nourishing life, but no elixir for obtaining immortality. Surprisingly, this honesty didn't anger the Khan at all. It earned his deep respect. Genghis Khan appreciated his frankness so much that they ended up meeting 3 more times over the next year to discuss governance and philosophy. During these meetings, Qiu Chuji offered a really profound piece of advice. Heaven treasures life and disapproves of killing. He basically taught the Khan that governing with a pure heart, having few worldly desires, and reducing slaughter was the key to leaving a true legacy. And the Khan was actually deeply moved by these teachings. As a direct result, he officially exempted Qiu Chuji's Quanzhen school of Taoism from all taxes and corvée labor, and effectively appointed Qiu to oversee religious affairs across the entire realm. Section 5. A disciplined empire. Ultimately, this profound dialogue perfectly humanizes the leaders of what was otherwise a really intimidating geopolitical machine. It leaves us with a massive question. When a civilization seamlessly merges mathematically precise warfare with strict intergenerational codified law, widespread religious tolerance, and a deep philosophical curiosity, well, who are the real barbarians? Considering their brilliant decimal military system, their unyielding Yassa laws, and a warlord willing to just sit and listen to an aging monk tell him he can't live forever, it leaves us wondering, was this unruly horde actually the most highly structured, brutally efficient superpower of its time? It's a fascinating thought to leave you with. Take a moment to think about how history gets written and who gets to write it. Thanks for joining me on This Explainer.